He's going to tell us a little bit about his career in pottery.
Hi, I've been a potter for 38 years as a hobby potter. I don't do this professionally. I've been teaching here at Wesleyan Potters for 24 years, and I've become a member of the co-op here 5 years ago. So it's been a very enjoyable experience. I love doing pottery. It's very therapeutic. Everybody should do it. And that's about me. I guess I'm going to talk about my tools now, or are you going to ask me questions?
No, I think you should just go right ahead and
Okay.
unveil what's in that magical
Okay.
toolbox.
Over the course of 38 years, I've obviously gathered a lot of tools, and when I first started out, I thought that I would go around to lots of art stores and pottery stores and things like that and buy every tool I could possibly find that I would think that would help me, because I thought having more tools would make me a better potter, but that wasn't the case. So over the course of the years, I've gathered quite a number of tools, which I carry around in my toolbox that I've had for about 30 some years. It's a Flambeau toolbox, very highly recommended. And probably after gathering all of these tools, I discovered I probably use maybe 6 or 8 of them routinely.
It's quite a mess in there, John.
It is quite a mess, but that's the sign of an active potter who cares more about his work than the cleanliness of his toolbox.
Well said.
Thank you. Of course, every potter has a variety of loop tools. This is one of my favorite loop tools. It's a loop tool made by Dolan Tools. It's small. It's almost the width of a pencil, so I like to hold it. I like the way it feels in my hand, and I use this a lot for a lot of my trimming. Another one of my tools that I like to use is something that I made. And it is this. This is made out of banding wire, which you get from Home Depot, Lowe's, any construction type of place. They throw this out by the hundreds of feet. They use this to strap 2x4s when they're being delivered. A friend of mine turned me on to this many, many years ago, and I've got a couple of these, different shapes, but it's very good for trimming. Very broad surfaces, curved surfaces. I can even pinpoint things with the tip there, and I find this to be a very useful tool. So between these two tools, I do a lot of my trimming with. Also, another important tool is a pin tool, which all potters have. This is good for trimming a rim or cutting off a piece of clay off of the rim if it's uneven or whatever. You notice this one is bent. I think pin tools should be bent, because when you're digging out the clay at the bottom of a bowl that you're throwing, or platter or whatever, you can't get into it if it's straight, and just from use it's become bent, so now it's parallel with the bat and trims off very nicely. Along the same lines, this I believe is another Dolan tool, also for trimming underneath at the foot of a freshly thrown pot. Very handy. You get this at an angle. You get that angle. You also get this angle. This is a similar tool, a little sharper. Of course, everybody has cutoff wires. These are very important. Bat pins are very important, because I throw everything on bats. I also throw a lot of platters, which are very large and typically 18 to 24 inches or so. So I've got a set of large ribs. This is one of my larger ribs. One of my students once said this looks like a whale, so I've dubbed this Moby rib. This is for pressing down the rim of a large platter. And I get things that are very cantilevered.
So that would go inside
This
the
would go
pot.
inside. I actually have a platter right here. If you want to zoom up there, that was done with Moby rib.
Look at that.
Like that. I also do a lot of round forms. So I've got a series of rounding ribs, which are very good. These are, I think, are mud tools. Yes, these are by Mud Tools. It's a relative, still flexible, but has a relatively good stiffness, which I like. This was back in the days of going to kitchen stores. This is simply a French spatula, which I use for compressing plates. Also doing some of my platters as well. Those are probably the common tools I use. Of course, there's a variety of other tools. This is a tool I started using recently when I make plates. I throw a flat pancake of clay out on a bat, and I simply lift the edge up to this mark, and then throw that a little bit to get it to shape, and that's how I make my plates. And of course, there's a lot of different wooden tools that serve all sorts of different purposes. What else have I got? I've also got a number of other smaller ribs that are also used for a variety of shapes, and even to the point of, this may look like a guitar pick, but this is really a rib. So I can use that for fine tuning surfaces as well. It is a guitar pick. Of course, the most important tool are these. All of these tools are really extensions of my hands, and these are the most important things. As I'm getting older, and I've done this for so long, I hear about a lot of older potters complaining about arthritis in their hands, and I hope that I don't get that, because right now my hands are very good. I tend to do some stretching exercises with my fingers to help with that. But these are the most important tools. The other tool that I made is my stamp for signing my clay. This is out of bisque. I used to actually sign it with simply a Bic pen or a pencil. A lot of students use a pin tool, and I recommend that they use something a little duller to get a broader surface mark on their pot. But after a while, I started noticing a lot of other potters use stamps, so I made my own. Carved it out of clay, bisque fired it, and that's what I used to sign my pots with now. Of course, there's once you get to decorating, there's all sorts of brushes. I do a lot of sodium silicate work to get a crackle effect. So depending upon what surfaces I'm putting on, I have some of these brushes. I also make my own brushes, of course, none of which I have in my toolbox right now, because the toolbox just can't hold everything. I do make some of my own tools, some of which I can't find here right now. Actually, I think there's one in here. This was a loop tool I made out of the same banding wire as the trimming tool. Just took a dowel, slit it, formed it, slide it in, put some aluminum wire around it, and this also is again good for trimming inside of bowls and things. There's no rule against trimming the inside of bowls. So these are probably the most common tools I use. Again, I've gathered up quite a number of them over the years, and like I said earlier on, I probably use only about 6 or 8 of them, and that's about it. But you can do anything you can with the right tool, and so I guess I just keep them all just in case I need them.
Is there anything in there that you never have ever used that you're wasted your money on?
That's an interesting question. I've probably, if that was the case, I've probably taken it out of here already, because twice a year I go through a routine of cleaning out my toolbox and actually cleaning everything and taking out the 3 pounds of clay dust that's typically in here. And at that point, I usually filter out things that I realize I'm not using, and I have a separate toolbox for those.
Ah, okay, that makes sense.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much, and we appreciate your thoughts about tools, and we'll stay tuned for your next class.
Okay, thank you.